put myself here quickly. Oops. Read the right one. That's the one I need.
Yay, it's working.
And
Yeah,
we
I
are
don't
live.
think you want that full screen, do you? It's going to be distracting anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we saw it change here, so.
Yep. The only thing you have to be careful is that you mute YouTube.
Yeah, we don't have
Okay.
any audio coming out of that
Okay.
monitor, so we're good there.
You don't want an echo?
Yeah, you don't want a 5-second delayed echo.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's strange, and I sometimes I want to hear my voice, but now I'm hearing it. But with the earbuds, sometimes it's strange. I'm not really confident with it.
The worst is when it's on a delay.
Yeah.
And you get that.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of hearing my voice.
But it's okay. You have a good voice for a live stream.
Oh, well, thanks.
No, and if you want to do a test before doing the show with Dan, you can always just send me a mail or whatever, and we can do a test. If you want to test out some things without any pressure, we can do it.
That would be great, Rudy.
Yeah.
I think we'll take you up on that when we get ready.
We have, of
Absolutely.
course, the time difference, but let's say that normally from let's say 2 p.m. Eastern, I'm available during the week.
Awesome.
Where are all the guys? That's strange. I was expecting a lot of people. Okay.
Is your mother watching?
No.
You didn't tell your mother?
No.
Jeez.
Hi Marco, nice to see you in chat.
Maybe the second time.
Hi Elmar,
Once you get used to it.
herzlich willkommen.
We got buffering and stuff, so again, I think it'll be good for just showing us roughly what's on there.
Right.
So Marco and Elmar in the chat, what we're going to do today is I'm just going to talk very briefly about what happened last week, and then it's all to Dan, who is going to present some
time
XKey
here,
stuff and so. Just to say, Dan,
Next time you need to move that camera lower.
I've muted you now, so I'm not going to hear you for a moment till after 5 minutes into the show. Let's prepare everything so we are ready. If you have any questions, the moment Dan is going to start his presentation, I'm going to have a look at the chat. You're not going to hear me much. So if you have any questions about some models, XKeys or whatever, just put them in the chat and I'll try to put them into a lower third. So and I'll ask then the questions after a few minutes. I'm not constantly going to interrupt them. Hi Martin, nice to see you. Hi John. Yeah, Tommy's the mystery guest. Oh, I couldn't say it today. I think after last week, Tommy is not going to come live anymore. He has had his 5 minutes of fame. Then is here, John. That I have muted them for 5 minutes. So, because not everyone heard what I said, so I'm going briefly talk about what happened last week. and then it's all about Dan, who's going to talk about the different XKeys models after a small introduction. So it's 8 o'clock, so let's start the show. This show is sponsored by XKeys, the company that knows how to push a button. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the School of Live Streaming. I'm Rudy, and the main objective of the show is to help people start live streaming. It's now the 3rd month, and yeah, it's I really like it so far. So I hope I can continue. Okay, there was a very small problem here. So everyone, welcome to episode 12 of School of Live Streaming. I'm Rudy, and I'm very glad you could make it here. It's going to be a very small show for me today, but I'm going to let Dan Slider, Director of Marketing of PI Engineering, do all the talk about the different XKey models. Before we go live with Dan, just a few things that happened last week, this week in fact, and that is a vMix 21 beta, of course. A lot of talk so far, mainly about the color correction. I played mainly with the JSON data source integration, which is very well improved, and also with an extra shortcut, I think, or a trigger that came. So you can use counters now that's going to trigger an input. My initial plan was to show you a few things about vMix 21 beta, but as I want to give Dan the floor today, I'm not going to do it. But if you're interested in knowing more about all the new features, just go to yesterday's WOLS show. As usual, I'm going to put the link into the description, because Giles Warham did an amazing job yesterday. He went through all the new features. We gave some feedback, what we thought about it. So if you don't have downloaded vMix 21 beta already, but you're curious about what's going to change, please go to the link into the description, and you can see all the new features about vMix 21 beta. So that was it for the first one, and my second and last point of today is after the Facebook problems, they are constantly changing their let me put this one for a moment, because I quickly have to change something. Okay, the problem, and it seems I'm going to have my first crash of the day, almost. As I said, Facebook is changing their policy due to, you know what happened. And what I found was on the Teradek site, and it's not only for their stuff, but it affects everyone. So Facebook apparently has indicated that they do not plan to restore access to events for streaming live video at this time. As I told you a few times, this only has an influence when you're using the API. So if you go back, I think 2 or 3 sessions, I told you the difference between the API and RTMP. If you use, so probably for the moment being, it's going to be impossible to use the API when you want to stream live to a Facebook event. Streaming to personal timeline pages, as long as the account you are an admin of the Facebook page and groups, will work for certain things. So in this week I'm going to test all the possibilities, and next week I'm going to show you quickly what's now possible and not, because apparently it's not the same for everyone. So Facebook again is constantly changing their policy, and it's driving some people nuts. I heard from someone who was doing a very big show to Facebook that at a certain moment it just stopped. So that's my second and last point of the day, because we have a special guest today. And my special guest of the day is no one else than Dan Slider. And Dan Slider is the director of marketing of PI Engineering. Oh, and Dan is not alone, I see. Hi Dan, welcome, welcome to the show. And
Hi Rudy, I brought a special guest along with me too.
Hi, I'm Miranda.
Hi Miranda. Before I give you the floor, then let's maybe quickly talk about PI Engineering, where the company is located, what you are doing, and what your and Miranda's role is in the company.
Well, PI Engineering is a computer input company. We're located in Michigan, USA. Anyone from Michigan, we always use the palm of the little mitten to show where we're from, and PI is from right in the palm of that mitten. It's a small company, there are about 20 of us here. Miranda and I are 90% of the marketing team, with the other 10% coming in with help from our tech people and order placement people and everyone in the company. We're all trying to row the same boat, so everybody pitches in. What else did he ask, Miranda?
What we each do, and that's about yeah.
Did we miss anything, Rudy?
No, I don't think so. No, I think most people knows X keys, and often it's difficult to say. Yeah, it's the company is PI Engineering, but it's like something to write. Sometimes it takes over a name when it's being used a lot. And I had to say I knew some MIDI devices, but it was with the start of vMix that said, oh, this looks promising. These MIDI devices. Did you also see the moment when vMix and other software were coming up, that also the MIDI devices were increasing the use of that?
Do you want to tell them how?
Go ahead.
The vMix? vMix completely surprised us. We were at NAB 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And someone came up to our booth and said, "Oh, X keys, vMix has you guys written in." And we said, "Okay, what's vMix?" It turned out they were just a few booths down the aisle from us. Mm-hmm. We learned all about it. We got very excited about it. that happened to come along at the same time we were introducing this T-bar unit, and so vMix picked up on that right away, and we sent them a sample. They put it in the software, and Tim's been using it to run the Funtime live show ever since.
Right.
And it's been great. Just you know, you've met those guys, Rudy. You were over at IBC, and you know just how fun they are to work with. It's almost like play. It's not really working when you're around to Martin and Tim.
They're good guys.
Yeah, it's. I think yesterday we also talked about it. It's amazing. You know other big companies, and it's very hard to approach those people. But last year at IBC, yeah, when I first met them, they were like, "Oh, can I say something to them?" And immediately there was a click. But what I'm also seeing is that vMix and X-Keys, you guys are more or less the same. It's of course you want to sell. That's your main objective. But it's not only about selling. You also try to help the community, and you see that it's amazing if you see people using vMix. A lot of them are using this kind of stuff. This is the X-Keys 24, which is an amazing piece of equipment, but Dan and Miranda are going to talk about this stuff later. So you're seeing kind of several companies working together, trying to make live streaming a lot easier. And you're going to show already some stuff. The coming weeks, I'm going to talk about shortcuts and activators. And everyone is going to see how it really can make your production a lot easier. Like probably no one, and I hope that it's the last time I'm going to say it, but my very first show, which is called episode 0 now, I forgot during 20 minutes to put on my audio. So with an activator and oops, Miranda. So with an activator and a key, you immediately could see, oh, something is flashing or it's red or whatever. I have to put on my audio. So that's really nice. But I think I've talked enough. So I'm going to ask from time to time a question. I'm going to look after the chat, and give me the floor to you. Then just show you what you have today for us.
Okay. Well, we had a question just yesterday about the switching power from vMix. And I did a little video on that, but I just thought this would be a good opportunity for us to show everybody how to program a shortcut and assign an activator. So we're going to do both. So first off, I'm going to share the desktop here, which would be that input. And then overlay our little, this is the X-Keys XKE 124 T-bar unit that we have all programmed up to act as a video switcher for vMix. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to program this key here to put an on-air overlay on our production. So Miranda's going to help me out here. So Miranda, step 1.
So first thing you do is you go to settings up here in the right hand corner and down to shortcuts, and then we want to add, and then up here you're going to click find, click the button that you want, hit OK, and then go down to function and overlay, right?
Yep, overlay. And we're using overlay channel 3 for this one.
Yep, so, and then input is?
Input is an on-air image that I swiped from Google Images.
It works. And then we just hit OK. And
So if we did this correctly, when we press this M4 button here, you'll see a little on-air overlay come in.
Perfect.
Okay, and now the next step is, let's see, we're going to go over to this camera. Go ahead. So what we're looking at here, this little box in the foreground is called X-Keys HD15 wire interface. That's a really nasty long name. But it's called that because there's an HD15 port on the front of it, which is where the inputs and outputs are connected. And then I have, you point to that black box sticking out of the side of it.
Oops,
Yeah,
this
that
guy
is
right here.
that's a connector that brings all those pins out to wire screw terminals. So I have, that thing has 14 digital inputs, which you can connect any kind of switch for contact closure. And it has 2 digital outputs, so you can toggle those outputs from 0 to 5 volts. Now, I had a client, Jason from DVE store, told me about this little relay, which is the thing next to it, that brownish box with the cord sticking out of it in between the two. This guy right here. And what that is an AC relay. So it has mains power coming into it, and that power can be switched by a relay that we can trigger with one of our digital outputs. So I think you can see the little green screw terminal coming out of that. I have that wired into a digital output from the HD15. So now with Miranda's help again, we're going to program that. Let's see, you want to get the, bring the desktop capture back up.
Okay.
So we've set an activator for this, and Martin supports it with a different kind of activator than our normal keys. So settings.
Back into settings.
Yep.
And then right underneath shortcuts, we're going to go into activators. And then add?
Yep.
Add, and then...
We don't do find
No,
on this
not
one,
on
so we
this
haven't even
one.
connected to it. So under control, where it says
That's
note,
right.
you're going to change that to control change. Now, since I have multiple X keys plugged into vMix right now, I need to assign different MIDI channels to each one, so I've assigned that HD to channel 16. Keep it out of the way from everything else. And the way, if you see those 2 little boxes next to the channel, the way Martin has it set up, if you use 0 in both of those, it will pertain to the first digital output that we have. If you use 1 in both of those, it will go to the second output. Okay, so we've got that done. Now what we want to do for this one is we want to assign it to that on-air overlay that we just created. So you're going to go to overlay 3. And then the type you need for this, by the way, this is all on the vMix website. I'll post a link to that later. You want to select the button LED type. So there it is, button LED. We're on the overlay input that we want to toggle to. Channel 16, no 00 with control change, and OK. So if we did that correctly, once we press this M4 button and the on-air overlay comes on, that relay should turn on and the on-air light that we have programmed should light.
Well,
Okay, what did we miss? We have power. We're on overlay 3, which is on. So let's go back into settings, activators, and find out where we made our mistake. New ones will be all the way at the bottom. Oh, see that input? We got the wrong input again.
they can't see it.
Right there where it says input, and it's on 1, and we need it to be on our on-air.
Could you Could you show that quickly then? What went wrong? That may be interesting for the people.
Oh.
So it's working now.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
It's working now, yeah. So in activators, we'll go to the one we programmed and hit the
Yeah.
edit button.
The wrong input.
Under the input, we had the wrong input
Mhm.
assigned. Yeah, so we needed to have it on our on-air input.
Yeah.
And now, if we go back to that camera, put our overlay on, that comes on and the on-air light lights up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. When I first saw this one, that was immediately the first thing. Yeah, you can find on live online those on-air signs, and it was immediately something I thought about. Yeah, the moment you click on the stream button in vMix, that it activates the on-air sign. That's a really nice thing. Before we go a step further, then where can people find all these equipment? Is there on one site, or can we buy the X keys here and there?
Yeah, obviously on our site, on Amazon, B&H,
And in Europe,
and Keyboard Specialist, xkeys-uk.com.
Okay.
X-keys.
x-keys-uk.com.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we couldn't get X keys in the UK because there's a location or some kind of amusement
No.
village or something called Cross Keys that they
Yep.
use. I'm sure Giles and Martin know all about that.
Okay, let me see.
And,
if there...
well,
yeah,
it-
go ahead.
So I was going to say that everything that we make, obviously, we sell directly from our site, or it's available through any of our resellers. If you contact someone, if you don't see it on their site, you can ask them to special order anything. And we ship all over the world,
Okay.
so that's not an issue.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll put the two links: the official X-Keys website and the site in the UK. I'll put these links already into the description. And if you have any questions about X-Keys, you'll find your ways. Let me see if there is already a question about this. Yes, there is a question from Elmar. Question: Analog Way Shot Box 2 looks like an X-Keys 80. Is it a special version, or has it a special firmware, or can we use a X-Key 80 with our switcher? If that makes any sense. Not for me.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's actually one of our custom OEMs that we do. We do the custom keys on there. We program it for them, and then they sell it as their...
I think that one has their unique identifier on it
Yeah.
as well.
Mhm.
So the answer for that would be no, you would not be able to take one of our XK80s and replace their device with it. That's something we do for
Yeah.
people who do big projects with us like that, because you know, they put a lot of effort into developing it. We wouldn't want someone to go behind their back and get one of our stock units and replace something that they worked very hard on to get it working. So that's a way we protect our the people that we work with for the OEM projects like that.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, because that's maybe probably most people here in the chat know it, but for those who don't know it, you don't only have the X keys that you're seeing. You can, well, more or less make your own configuration, taking out some keys with what Tommy thought in the beginning was a nose speaker, but it's for lifting your keys. But Tommy knows now that it's not a nose speaker, but it's for lifting the keys. And yeah, it's very interesting that you see how you can make your... I've seen it. That's amazing, because we can talk for hours, let's say, about the X-Keys 24, and I can ask people, okay, you have 24 keys now at your disposal. What are you going to put under those 24 keys? I think if I ask it 100 people, that I get 100 answers. And that's of course is also the nice thing, that you're not tied to, okay, this is camera 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you can put whatever you want under one of those buttons.
Yeah, it was originally designed for a CAD tool, Rudy. That was the original intent when we put it out there, so that you could have your drawing tools and your views and things at hand. But we also recognize it's just a control device, and we tried to make it flexible so it's easy to label the keys. That's something that I think a feature that we have that goes beyond most of the MIDI devices. They don't give you a good way to label the keys, and it's so much easier if you have a clearly identified key to just, that's my cut key, or this is my overlay. This is my overlay the X keys key, and I know exactly what it's going to do when I hit it.
Mm-hmm. Another question then, before we go back to you and the rest of your product line, is a question from John Thompson. Does that mean that the new Wirecast X keys unit won't work with vMix?
Well, actually, that one, Telestream did not want it protected. They wanted their end users to be able to buy any X keys and plug it in and have it work. And so, as a matter of fact, you could take the Wirecast device and program it up in vMix, absolutely.
Okay, that's great. Okay, before we answer a few more questions, let's give you the floor back, and so you can show other products.
Let's just start. So we range anywhere from 1 button to the 128, and of course you can add multiple units, so you could add more and more and more X keys. But if you grab let's start with the foot pedal, because that has the 3-switch interface attached to it. The red one. Yeah, sorry, we had our one trick pony here, and now we're just grasping at straws. Really. That's what makes live streaming fun, right?
Yeah.
So this is a pedal, but it's just a momentary contact closure. You can wire any switch. Hold that thing up. There it is. Unplug it so they can see. So that's the X keys guts right in that little, we call it the fun size X keys.
Wow.
I can show you a fun video we made on that one. It has a TRRS port on the end of it, which can be split out to 3 switches. And for those of you that saw the last Fun Time Live show, that's the device Tim was using with our big button to trigger the beta alarm that he did many times.
He had great fun with it.
Yeah. And that's one of our least expensive devices. It's $49.95, I think, retail. Yep. So that's an easy way to get up to 3 switches into vMix or into your computer to do whatever you want with them. Then we got the 4-key. I got a 4-key stick, right? Yep. So this is our 4-key stick, and again, it's an X keys, 4 keys. This one only has blue backlighting. It doesn't have blue and red like our others. It's not really one of my favorites because we used a tact switch on it. It's kind of tippy and clicky. Doesn't have that good solid feel that from the 24-key, or that anybody that's messed with our 128 or 124.
Right.
I'll stop talking and you can talk about the next one, the 8.
So this, oh goodness. We'll bring the 16 too.
Okay.
So the sticks come in 3 different sizes. We also have one that has 8 keys. same concept. And then the 16. Oops, go this way. This way.
And you see those,
Yeah, it's
where do we see people?
it's very strange. If you want
Go ahead, Rudy.
if you want to put left, you have to to show something on the right. I think you need a mirror or kind of things. Then this one is that 19 inch? Is it put it into a 19-inch rack?
Funny you should ask. We do have a plate adapter for that. That,
Yeah.
that you can
This
mount it
wasn't-
into a rack mount.
This wasn't rehearsed, by the way, guys.
Can you tell?
Can you tell? Yeah. I know, we're so good at this. And then for rack mount, right now we have a rack mount unit with 32 keys in it, 2 rows
Oh.
of 16. And then we have a new product coming out, hopefully this fall.
I'm really excited about this one. So 40 keys, compatible with all of our bigger keys, the wides, the talls, the quads, our blockers, has the end caps on it, and then it also comes with the ears, so then you can mount it, rack mount it if you want. But it's
This
enclosed.
is a nice unit.
It's
Yeah.
solid.
It's got an extruded aluminum case, yeah, so it's really solid.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm really excited about this.
Someone in the chat says that he attaches his 4-key switch to the tripod handle to switch cameras. So that's you see, people are using the switches in all kind of ways. And then a question then if there are any plans for the keys backlighting, e.g. RGB and so.
RGB, we have discussed it. You know, right now we have 2 LEDs, one red, one blue, and we do make one XK24, a custom version that has white backlighting behind it. You know, like I said, we have discussed it. Using an RGB LED is certainly an option, and I think it's quite likely we'll move toward that, something like that in the future. At this point, I know that there's nothing on the drawing board with it, but you know, perhaps in another year or two, that could change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, just to be clear, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but if you buy an X keys and you want to use it with vMix, you don't need any extra software. You just connect it and you activate it in vMix and it's going to work. But you have a few extra software, I think, that you can use, because Tommy is using it with MicroWorks. I think you also have a software you don't need it for vMix, but where you can, I played with it, where you can say, okay, I want my default color to be blue, I want to red, so you have a few extra software you can use to do stuff, but for using it with vMix, you don't need any extra software.
Yeah, that's correct. Martin has just fully integrated it, so you have all control. You can see every button, you can see every movement of the control, you know, like this T-bar.
Yeah.
He's done a really nice integration
Yeah.
with it, so you do not need our software. You just plug it in. He recognizes all the buttons and the controls, and with the activators, you can talk back to the keyboard like we showed.
A question from Tommy. I know you can use more than 2 X keys, but are you only limited by the number of USB ports as a limit?
For the most part, yes. And obviously you can get a USB hub and add on to that. The operating system has a limit of how many USB devices you can connect, and off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Somebody out there knows, it's 64 or something like that. But nothing that would keep you from building a really big switcher with X keys if that's what you wanted to do. We've seen some examples of that. Pretty cool.
Yeah, you
Right.
think that 128 buttons is more than enough, but it seems for some people still not enough. They have 2 X keys. I've seen someone with 2 X keys, 128. I said, how is this even possible? But yeah.
Yeah.
Questions
Or
before
I
we
think
go
I've
further?
seen another example out there with somebody who had a 128 and 280 keys next to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that was it.
For that. So sorry, go ahead. What was your...
No, question from
question.
Martin Steed. Do you have any Bluetooth or wireless setups?
You would ask that, wouldn't you, Martin? You're trying to be difficult. We've been toying with different wireless and Bluetooth designs. You have connectivity is one issue. Obviously, other people have solved that. Power is another one. Do you want, we're going to stick some batteries in this thing, or do you want to plug it into the wall? What kind of wireless do you want? If you're not worried about expense, Paul Richards at PTZ Optics has a really nice wireless control that you can plug in one X keys into one end and the other end into your PC. They both need wall power, but that's a very nice wireless connection, and it works without any additional foo-fa needed. It just, you plug it in and it works kind of like it does with X keys. So,
okay.
there you go, Martin. That now go back on the stoop.
Go back to the woods.
And by the way, Tom, yeah, and tell Tommy I love him. Okay.
Last questions before we go further. John is asking Windows drivers ?
With vMix, no. vMix will just recognize our data report and run with it. If you want to do other things like keystrokes or launching applications, that's where we have our software. It's called MacroWorks, and you can program, keystrokes, or you can open directories, you can launch programs, applications, and what am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting something.
I'm forgetting it too. Sorry.
We also, we have software for OS X as well on the Mac, and we have free software development kits for Windows, for Mac, for Linux, for Android. We try to be as flexible as we can. We just wanna make hardware. We want you to be able to push a button and assign it to something on your computer or tablet and have it work. Yeah. That's our goal.
Yeah, I think it's the way to go. It's that you're not tied to one software in particular, because if that software goes out, then you also goes out with your. Okay, we only make X keys for vMix. If vMix. Yeah. Okay, Miranda, what else can you show us?
PTZ.
Sure.
Why not? So here's our XK68 joystick. And got a bunch of custom keys on this one that we printed. And at the show we had this running the PTZ NDI camera.
That's another project that we're working on right now that we're pretty excited about. As you know, how NDI is just exploding all over, Rudy. Right now, there aren't very many good solutions for running NDI PTZ cameras. So we are working on an app that will be able to see and control up to 4 NDI cameras and send PTZ commands to them. So I'm hoping to have a beta release of that pretty soon. But another thing that,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
another thing I was going to say that Miranda does for us is that she handles the artwork and the key printing to get this set up. So when we do custom keys, like the video switcher set that we put on this one, or the keys on this device, those are done on an industrial printer that uses UV cured acrylic ink, which means we can put anything on a key. And you may have seen, for fun, we put Martin and Tim's faces on keys. We made a copy for Tess and for Paul, and have done some, and our Lego printing thing, our little Lego studio display, all of our Lego guys have X Keys logos on their shirts. So Miranda has some fun with that, but she also does the serious stuff like making the video switcher sets and the Wirecast, that new Wirecast control board. That's all done in-house right now.
Yep.
Wow, that's great. Seems you had some hidden gem at your company for us, Dan. A question from me, because in the last vMix 21 beta there was one line about the Jock shuttle.
Oh dear.
You knew it was going to come, that? What?
I did. You warned me.
Yeah. Wasn't it working before, and what's exactly the goal of that Martin has added this now to the shortcuts?
Do you want to take this?
No.
No?
Go.
Okay, you can grab the prototype. We've been showing this at the last two NABs, and we really are, guys. I promise. We're trying to get this into production. It's designed, as you can see, for instant replay, with the T-bar in one corner and the jog shuttle in the other. Wow. Now, we had a working prototype that was working electronically but was not in this configuration that we want. And we sent that down to Martin because we know vMix is the first practical use that it'll be put to is through vMix. So we thought it was pretty important we get them on board and get the support for it. So Martin, he's ahead of us. He took the prototype that we sent him and he integrated it. So it's in vMix. You can't buy it. There are only 2 of them working in the world. You can't buy them yet. But they're in vMix, and when it comes out, you'll be able to plug it in and go. So
we just
perhaps this fall.
We just discovered an Easter egg in vMix 21 beta.
Right.
Yep.
No, but this, I think, at the moment, then you asked, I think it was in the user group, in the XKeys user group, what kind of layout do you guys want? And yeah, like we talked earlier, yeah, some people want it on the left, some people want it on the right, some people want it on top. Everyone seems to have his own way.
Everybody had a yeah, and we ended up going with what was already in vMix. They use a controller made by someone else who I won't name. That is not exactly like this one, but similar layout anyway.
Great.
Miranda Tommy is asking if you can make a personalized nose puller for him.
I don't know about that.
And another question that probably one question you already heard so many times. It's from someone into the chat. Next step, column, faders.
Yes. I would love to see an XKeys with some faders on it. And we've had many discussions with the engineering team, and nothing on the board yet. But right there with those RGB LEDs, it's certainly a possibility.
Yeah,
It would be awesome.
Yeah, Martin is saying in the chat. Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead and tell me what. I really want to know what Martin says.
Well,
because
Martin,
we might have to send him back to the stoop.
He's serious. That would be great for PTZ control. Wheel for panning, T-bar for titling, buttons for zooming.
Huh. Interesting.
Ah.
Yeah,
sometimes
I'd like to
it can
see
be
that
interesting.
set up. He's not always bad.
No.
Yeah. So.
Okay, Miranda. You showed us already so many things, but you probably have
Yeah.
still some things left.
There's still some more. What do you want?
Well, I'll grab an 80 key. I think most people have seen this one, but this is our XK80, an 8x10 grid. And those of you familiar with X keys know you can knock out rows and columns with blockers. You can add tall, wide, big keys to it. And this is pretty popular in streaming too. I'm starting to see more of these being used. When people are finding that the 24 keys isn't quite enough for what they're trying to do. So this is a good low-cost alternative.
Yeah, personally, it's more or less also my favorite. Well, like you say, for the moment, 24 keys is enough. But the moment you start to learn more and more about vMix, it's immediately, oh, I need some more keys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, that the NDI PTZ app I was talking about, I think it's looking like the first iteration is just going to be using keys. The joystick seems like a good idea, but in practically applying it, there are a lot of challenges with it. And so for this first iteration for the beta, to keep your things simpler, we're just going to be using keys.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to set your presets with it and things like that. So go
it's
ahead, Rudy.
It's something I heard also from, I think it was here in someone from our national television. Because they have their, of course, the very expensive. There's a reason why a real good jog shuttle is so expensive. And he said, if we want to really be fast and don't have to take all our very expensive equipment, we're using keys. Because it seems that how do you call it exactly, the velocity or whatever, I don't think it's 100% correct, but it seems to me counterproductive, but a key, it seems easier than a slider. They can, he said we prefer to use keys for it. Okay.
Well, one of the things we're finding as we've been testing a couple different types of NDI cameras, is that it seems like each camera has its own quirks that some of them in their firmware, they try to smooth things out for you. And while that's nice, when you're trying to take complete control over something and have it respond exactly the way you want it to respond, if then it's dampening and it's not moving the way you want it to, that can cause problems. And then you move from one model of camera to another, and that whole thing changes. It just makes your job of controlling it that much more difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Some other stuff to show? Or was that a collection?
We got I didn't bring the 68 jog shuttle, but we brought the 12.
The 12.
So, as I said, we don't have that replay controller available right now, but I do know there are people using our 68 jog and shuttle for replay, and they're using keys, as we just talked about, they're using keys in place of what that T-bar was doing for them, I think speed control. That's the little guy, the 12.
Little guy. And get the little guy in the joystick as well.
Now the joystick, right now it actually does work in vMix. He recognizes it. It's a USB joystick, but it does not have velocity.
Yeah.
So it's no different than pressing a switch in one of 8 directions: up, down, left, right, and then the diagonals. So he recognizes each of those positions. So.
What else do we have?
I think the 60 key was the only one we didn't talk about.
So.
And this one, it's the same footprint as the XK80, but it has a row and 2 half columns knocked out.
Yeah.
Aside from having the pi symbol in it, which is important, This separates the keys into 4 distinct areas, and it makes them a lot easier to find when you're looking for just the right key.
Yeah.
And this one kind of, it shadows a design of an earlier product that we had. You may have seen some of the older X keys with the black case that had 58 keys on them in this very similar pattern.
Yeah. One thing I noticed then, like the people from vMix are using is these lights, kind of activator lights on top of a instead of a button, it's a small LED. Is that something extra you can buy as kind of a confidence?
Yeah, I didn't bring any of those to show. Tim loves those things. We call them a light pipe blocker.
Yep.
I'm talking too much.
No. So it's basically the same concept as the blocker. Pull the plunger out of that spot, put it in there, and you can program it so when you hit, it's that one, right? So if you want, say you hit that button, it'll go on. You can program it so the light goes on right there for you.
Yeah, I really like
they're
it.
Neat. They're handy.
Yeah, like for again for audio, that it could kind of an extra confidence for if I'm thinking one for record, one for stream, a few LED lights that are kind of extra confidence, so okay, I'm live, it's recording, very nice things.
Yeah, bring that up for me.
Martin is
What you were talking about, those...
Okay, go ahead. No.
You'll have to wait, Rudy, I'm talking. What you were talking about, what I wanted to mention that the LEDs behind our keys, they really weren't designed for indication. They were designed to be, kind of a backlight, kind of a glow across the whole board, so that if you look closely, you'll see there's some bleed over when this is a live one, there's a little bit of bleed over into the keys on either side of it. Now, those light pipe blockers, since the light pipe goes right down to the circuit board where the LED originates, when those things come on, they are bright, and there is no denying that that's on, and there's no mistaking it for the one next door or anything. So that's where those light pipe blockers are really useful if we use them that way.
That's nice.
Okay, Martin, what did you want?
Well, Martin was saying that you didn't bring the 16. Come on, then you must try harder.
The 16? Oh, the 68 jog shuttle. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to the stoop now.
Then Tommy is saying, I really don't see a need for a T-bar when you can program a key to transition from one shot to another. Yeah, I know it's a discussion, but I think it's from the TV world when people have always known the T-bar. I don't know if you have.
Miranda knows I have a favorite story about this, but do you want to tell it?
Go for it.
Okay. Phil and I realized that we've been going to NAB for 14 years. And for the first 10 or 11 of those, people would be walking by our booth and we saying, yeah, they're keys, you can use them for switching. And they just walk on by. And all of a sudden, when we put the T-bar on this thing, the same people, I swear, walking down the aisle, glance over, see the T-bar, and say, oh, it's a switcher. You can use it for switching. And, I had to restrain myself from strangling them. But, yeah, it's just one of those things. It was not, X keys were not recognized as a legitimate control surface in that market until we had a T-bar. And now I'm hearing all kinds of people saying, well, you don't really need that T-bar.
Yeah.
And
I think it's...
You're absolutely correct. You don't need that T-bar.
It's the same, I think, with the vMix interface. When people started to use vMix, they were complaining about the interface because they were more the Wirecast interface was more or less like older switchers, while the vMix interface is again there's some ingenuity behind it. I think it goes very fast, all the things, and everything is an input. So that was also kind of, people had to change their mind about it, but now, well, I hear almost no one complaining about the interface anymore. And I think what, for me personally, the T-bar is making an affordable thing less affordable, because it's an extra cost, a cost you can avoid. And instead of buying let's say an X-Keys with a T-bar, X-Keys 68 if it should exist, you can buy a 128 but without T-bar. And it depends what you want to do. I personally am more in favor also for keys, certainly now with the extra possibilities that our vMix are giving us, with like auto fade on buttons and stuff like that, audio fade. It's a fade. You can program the duration under a shortcut, a trigger, off you go. So maybe the audio, it's sometimes I contradict myself. I really like my audio. My audio mixer still has faders, which I'm almost not using anymore, but I really like from time to time. When I was young, I was a DJ, and I still like faders. Mm-hmm. But I can imagine that go ahead.
I've had this discussion here a number of times as well, that for a short period of time I was an audio engineer. And so I used mixing consoles, and having that physical footprint of where your levels are, and being able to watch someone on screen and reach with your hand to touch the fader and feel what level it was compared to others, mm-hmm. and make those minute adjustments. I don't see giving that up. After you've had the feel for it and how useful it is. So I don't know. We have had many discussions about ways to replace faders, whether with like a scroll wheel, or I know some of these use touch screen things where you put your finger down and drag it up or down. It's I guess maybe I'm one of these old farts, but I think it's going to be hard to, in my workflow, it'd be really hard to replace having that.
Yeah, I think it's when you go to a music concert, you see often the audio engineer is mixing even without saying. He knows exactly, okay, I'm here at 50 or 60% of my maximum volume, and I'll top up on a quick look. But he knows, okay, if I move a little bit there, it's okay. And his ears are the most important thing. And but here you see, we love the audio faders, but the T-bar, it's a very interesting discussion, I think. John is asking, John, is that for me or for Dan, my DJ name? Because I didn't want to show it because it was on the private, but in his younger days, Dan was the incarnation of Chris Christopherson with a beard, and he looked very famous, to say the least.
You saw my Facebook profile, yeah.
But anyway, let's just switch a little thing before I think you showed us more or less the complete connection. And if it's okay for you, then, because I think our audience is really going to like that, is to have a small chat with Miranda, because she's new for the live streaming community. And Miranda, I have to warn you, there are some people here into the chat who are rather dangerous in that respect. If they see a new face, and certainly a female face, because we need more female faces on the live stream. But what are your thoughts about live streaming in general? And do you have any plans to do something yourself, or how do you see everything?
Well, I think live streaming is awesome. I don't have that much experience with it personally, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, I know Dan and I have been talking about doing a live streaming show here with X keys and everything. So should be in the works, but I don't know.
Tom Sinclair was really lobbying for you to start your own streaming show.
Yeah. Everyone's kind of throwing me into the lion's den here. Do this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
we'll see how this goes.
It's I know the most difficult part is episode 1. The moment,
or episode 0.
Then you call it 0. But the moment you pass, and every week I make a mistake. This also, I muted your audio, but for a kind of weird reason, I also muted my own audio for the first 30 seconds of the show. So, but that's what live streaming is about. I don't think that a perfect live stream exists, and I'm still learning. That was why I started this show, and I really hope you can start your own show. You're learning every week, and it's picking up from everyone. I pick up from Dan, I pick up from Martin, I pick up from Giles, I pick up from you, the way you explaining things, and then you try to make your own show. But I really think it's great. We have another guest, and I don't think people are going to be, well, they don't mind if you come to WOLS show or another show to talk about your passion, because it's your passion you have to talk about. But it's really good to see you you live. I think you have.
Yeah, thank you.
You have it. It's going to work.
I have it.
And you
that is one really.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh. Oh, that is one really good thing to know is, like, I mean, everybody starts at basically at the same spot when they start live streaming, so I guess that's where I'm starting.
Yeah,
but, lots of people to learn from, so that's good.
Rudy, I just wanted to say that, I've been watching you, your baby steps, and you're struggling to get this thing going. And I am really impressed with the progress that you've made in just a short period of time, that I can already see your on-air presence, your confidence has gone up, and it's been fun to watch that growth of your show. And I know you're just going to continue to get this thing is going to be better and more popular all the time. So I think that's wonderful, and I'm so happy that we were here to watch the beginning of it.
No, thanks for that. And yeah, it's really a journey, and I explained it the first 2 or 3 weeks. The reason why I'm not using this one, so there's a reason I'm not using the X Keys 24 so far, because it makes things too easy for a beginner. Because when then something goes wrong, I think in the first weeks you don't know what's going wrong. Now I know I screwed up my audio, and then you try to build up your show. So I have to work on an intro video, I have to work on that, But now that I think I've covered the basics for a certain percentage, now I can grow, and I can start programming my X keys and all the other stuff, which going to make things a lot easier. That's one. And Miranda, what makes it also for me a lot easier now the last 3 shows is bringing in guests. Certainly when you can bring in a guest like you that can talk for half an hour, showing interesting thing, that that gives you kind of a kind of a rest. I can have a look at the chat here and see what's going on in the chat, because it's a lot it amazes me. Even a show of 30 minutes, if you do a show of 30 minutes, how much is it? You have to you look at your camera has to be good, your audio has to be good.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is preparation. I couldn't do a show without preparation. Preparing my double shots, preparing my lower thirds, what I have to talk about. But I think, and you see it on Tom is, when Tom is starting to talk, he's at ease and he's okay, let's talk about this, like thoughts about that, because he has the experience now of everything. And I really hope, my big hope is that I can bring it a lot of other guests, and it doesn't have to be about live streaming. If they want to talk about their passion for 5, 10 or 15 minutes, why not? And if I and you and Miranda and WOLS can help people make it easier to come live, I think that would be a great thing to bring more people on live online. So yeah, I don't know if you have still anything to say or to add to that, or if you want to talk about something, Dan or Miranda, about X-Keys or something else.
We have a little outro video.
Okay.
To take us out. If you're ready for that, we'll play it and we'll say goodbye.
Okay, before you do that, then and then I'll put then I do my credits, and if you have 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes to say a little bit for the post show, if people have any questions.
Sure.
First, I really want to thank you, Dan, one for the sponsoring, but also for coming onto the show. Same for you, Miranda. It was great to have you on the show and show us all the X-Keys. I learned a few things, even about new X-Keys, and that you are the person behind those really nice buttons. Because this is the banana.
Oh, you got one.
This one is a present from last year's IBC. So people, Miranda and Dan, thank you very much for being on the show. I know it's been very appreciated also in the chat. I want also to thank all the people into the chat for all these interesting questions and for staying with us during this show. So last words are for Dan and Miranda.
Okay.
Thank you, Rudy. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, and we are officially in the post-show now. Really enjoyed today's show. I hope you guys into the chat also enjoyed the show. We had 2 magnificent guests, but they were mostly the hosts. So I had a very relaxed show today. With Dan and Miranda did all the talking.
Good.
It was nice. It was nice to do. Let's see.
I think that's a great idea, Rudy. You bring somebody on that can talk and deliver all the information, so you're not having to do it yourself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it really takes off a lot of the load, and I feel a lot more relaxed knowing that there is someone else that can do a talk. I can do some other stuff at the meantime. Okay, I have to be careful to do that. Okay, thank you, Tommy.
Do you have questions? Do you have questions from the chat? Because I have a question for them.
Okay, go ahead. Then there is so far not a question, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. So you don't want to see the studio we have thrown together here with duct tape and chewing gum. But one of the things I realized just before we started is that I think our PTZ optics camera is too high, so we're not looking into it. You know, we're looking more at the monitor where you are. And I wondered if that was noticeable to people out there, if it will help if we bring that camera down.
Okay, guys, into the chat, what do you think about it? For me, it was okay then. That's my biggest problem. A problem I haven't solved so far. Well, I have at the moment 3 monitors. Just in front of me is my laptop, 17-inch, and above my laptop is my camera. So I try to look into the camera, but I'm doing it, not enough. What I already did to help me is it's a camera with a small screen, and I folded out the screen so I could look into the screen. But then I was more looking that way, so I closed it, and if I look now into the camera, that has to be okay now for me normally. But I often have to look at screen left, screen right. Martin and John are saying then camera would be better down a bit. That would be better.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Good to know.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, it's often a struggle, and certainly like me here, it's not my fixed. It's where I do all my live streams. But when the show is over, I have to take away my tripod, my lights, because otherwise I cannot sleep, because it's also my bedroom. Elmar is saying cam seems to be a little bluish. Use color correction, smiley.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at our output here looks good, but when I notice on your feed we look pretty blue.
Yeah.
So I don't know if of course, I've never done any calibration on the laptop monitor that we're using, so that could be off as well.
Yeah, it's also something, again, guys, this is something new maybe, but when I did some photography, my monitor, it was a CRT, a big one, but it was color calibrated. Now my monitors are not color calibrated because I have very cheap 24-inch, and I don't think it's going to help to calibrate them. But that's something else you have to do. You have to calibrate your cameras. You have to calibrate your screen.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed.
Now I wonder.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Just thinking out loud with the new color calibration tools that Martin's given us, if we set up a color chart from the camera and calibrated it, if we even, if you're just looking at the numbers and the vectors on the screen, if you even need to calibrate your monitor.
Yeah, I think if your lights are not going to change a lot, because if sometimes if your lights are changing a little bit from position or height, it's you're going to need to recalibrate. But it's interesting. It's something also I'm thinking of to buy a good calibration card, an X-Rite one, and try what. Yeah. If it's because that I did you follow yesterday's show completely then?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
I need to go back and take a look at it.
There's one.
I just saw the.
Okay, there was.
So I was watching the Fun Time live show. Okay, Rudy.
No.
Rudy, you go first.
Okay.
I'll listen.
No, there was one interesting suggestion already for it's a feature request, but I've used it when I was doing when I was playing a little bit with video editing. That is, you can take a picture of a snapshot of an X-Rite, And then you say into this program, okay, this is the top left, the top right, the bottom left and right. And it recognizes then the X right, and it knows the 24 colors, or I don't know how many exactly there are. But I know, okay, that's...
On the color chart, yeah.
Yeah, that's pink, that's blue, that's green, that's yellow. And he creates a color profile for you. If that could be added to vMix, and John Thompson was the guy who did a feature request on the vMix forum for it, that would be great, because then you just take, okay, you do your setup, you take a very good snapshot or picture of your X-Rite color chart, vMix creates a color profile for it, and then your colors should be okay.
Right. I just realized what was wrong. When we did the on-air overlay,
Yeah.
I originally had it set up for channel 4, which was
Yeah.
this one is what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then we accidentally did it for 3,
2.
which is when we have set up for the keyboard. So it was supposed to do this, which is so much nicer than this.
Yeah.
This is exactly what a problem I have from time to time. I play with my overlay channels, and then I try to show people, and then suddenly my lower third is in a picture-on-picture. Oh no!
Right.
You have to. I think what I'm going to do then to avoid that. No, it's not a good idea. But you can. Yeah, you can create a shortcut that say set overlays off, or all overlays off, or maybe reset them. But then they're in the default state,
Right.
and maybe you want this one, in the middle or top right. But I'm going to write it down, because this is an interesting thing to look deeper into it. How to avoid mistakes, but again, at the same time, yeah. If your 4 overlays are always at the same position, it's not a problem. But if you want to make changes...
Right. If you come up with you come up with some standard for the way you want them to be and leave it that way. Well, Rudy, I think we're going to go back to work. This has been fun.
Yes, it has.
Thanks again for being on the show and showing everyone. I think a lot of people are going to watch this show a little bit later, because I know a lot of people are interested in X-Keys. So Miranda and Dan, thank you very much, and have fun at work.
Bye.
Thank you, Rudy. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. So, yes, guys, this was it. I think also for me, if there are not any more questions, I really think it was an interesting show. Dan even showed us some things that weren't shown before, so that was really nice. Thanks for all the good questions into the chat and the suggestions about making their production a little bit better. Normally, next week I'm going to start with shortcuts, but on a very, very basic way. I'll probably start explaining how it works, shortcuts. And I'm going to use the APC Mini for that to start with, because it has the faders, and we had a discussion. But so I can show you how faders are working, shortcuts, the activators, how they are working. I'm still doubting if I'm going to go for a longer show, a show for between half an hour and an hour, or if I'm going to break it up in a few sections, so I can talk about other stuff also. But normally, the next coming weeks, it's going to be about shortcuts and activators and stuff like that. And in a few weeks, I also have someone that's going to talk about instant replay, because I know the basics, but this guy is an instant replay specialist. So he's going to come into the show and he's going to talk about instant replay and the MIDI devices he's using. I'm also going to show you all the different MIDI devices that there are, the ones that I know, because we're not tied to APC Mini or X keys. There are plenty of other stuff. So thanks again, guys, who are still onto the chat. I had a great show. I hope that's the same for you, and I hope to see you next week. Bye bye.